Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Neville on Bible. I'm Evelyn. In today's episode, we're exploring one of the most intimate and misunderstood teachings of Jesus, Matthew 6, verse 6. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. At first glance, this sounds like advice about privacy. Don't pray in public. Don't show off your faith. But Neville Goddard insisted that this verse goes far deeper than etiquette or morality. According to Neville, Jesus wasn't talking about a physical room at all. He was revealing the mechanics of prayer, where prayer truly happens, how it works, and why it must be done in secret. Tonight, we're going to unpack this verse entirely through Neville's lens, using only his books and lectures, and by the end of this video, you may never think of prayer the same way again. Neville often began by clearing confusion. He said this verse is not condemning public prayer, and it's not prescribing a religious ritual. It's not about posture, words, or locations. In his 1941 book, Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville explains that Scripture is psychological, not historical, and that Jesus speaks to the inner man, not the outer personality. So when Jesus says, enter into thy closet, Neville says this cannot mean wood, walls, or doors. It must mean entering a state of consciousness. Likewise, when Jesus says, pray to thy Father, Neville insists the Father is not external, distant, or separate. The Father is your own awareness of being, the I am within you. Prayer, then, is not speaking to God. Prayer is communion with your own deeper self. Neville directly references Matthew 6, verse 6 in several lectures. In his 1965 lecture, Teach Us to Pray, he says, when you pray, go within and shut the door. Close the door of the senses, and then inwardly tune in and listen. That one sentence changes everything. The closet is not a place, it is the inner silence. It is the moment when you withdraw attention from the outer world and turn inward. Neville says the five senses of sight, sound, touch, memory, reason constantly testify to what is. Prayer begins only when you temporarily deny the evidence of the senses. To go within means to leave the world as it appears and enter the world as imagined. This is why prayer feels quiet, private, and deeply personal. It happens in consciousness, not in conversation. The phrase, shut the door, is crucial. In his book, Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville writes, to break the hypnotic spell of the senses, you are told, go within and shut the door. The door of the senses must be tightly shut before your new claim can be honored. This is not repression. It's temporary withdrawal. You are not fighting the world, you are simply refusing to consult it. Neville explains that as long as you keep checking facts, circumstances, or opinions, the door remains open and prayer cannot begin. To shut the door means no arguing with appearances, no mental rebuttals. No, but how? You enter the inner room already accepting the reality you want to experience. This is why prayer must be done in secret, because the moment you expose it to doubt, logic, or contradiction, the door reopens. Jesus says, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Neville is unequivocal about this. In his book At Your Command, he writes, the Father is your awareness of being. I am is the Father. So the Father is not someone who hears prayers. The Father is the one who becomes. When you assume a state, when you feel yourself to be what you desire, you are praying as the Father, not to Him. That's why prayer isn't asking for change. Prayer is the change. You are not persuading God. You are occupying a new state of consciousness. And that state, Neville says, must express itself outwardly. Neville emphasizes secrecy again and again. Not secrecy from others, but secrecy from the reasoning mind. In his 1966 lecture, His Own Credentials, Neville says, enter the closet alone and shut the door of the senses. then you are in communion with your Father, who is your very self. Prayer fails when it becomes performance. When you explain it, justify it, or seek reassurance, you've left the closet. True prayer feels almost imaginary, fragile, and private because it exists before facts. This is why Jesus warns against praying to be seen. The moment prayer seeks validation, it loses power. Prayer is strongest when no one knows, not even the rational part of you. For Neville, the secret place of prayer is imagination. In his book, Your Faith is Your Fortune, he calls it the bridal chamber where the soul unites with its desire. He writes, "Quietly go within and shut the door. Lose yourself in your desire. Feel yourself to be one with it." This is not visualization as effort. It's identification. You are not imagining having something. You are imagining being the one who has it. When that feeling becomes natural, even briefly, prayer is complete. The act is invisible. No movement occurs. Nothing changes outwardly yet. And yet, Neville insists the seed has been planted. Jesus says the Father seeth in secret. Neville explains this beautifully. Consciousness never misses an assumption. In his book, The Law and the Promise, Neville shows that once a state is occupied inwardly, it must externalize through what he calls a bridge of incidence. No effort is required. No forcing. No manipulation. Your Father, your awareness, has already accepted the assumption. And what consciousness accepts as true must express itself as fact. This is why prayer feels finished before anything happens. The final promise is clear, "And thy Father shall reward thee openly." Neville stresses that the outer world must conform, but never in the way you predict. The reward comes naturally, often unexpectedly. You don't announce your prayer. Life announces it for you. When circumstances rearrange, when doors open, when conversations occur, that is the reward made visible. Prayer always moves from inner assumption to outer confirmation and never the other way around. Neville's instruction is simple. First, define your desire clearly. Second, enter stillness. Third, withdraw attention from the senses. Fourth, assume the feeling of fulfillment. And fifth, stop. No repetition. No pleading. No effort. Prayer is complete the moment you feel it as real. If you repeat prayer, Neville says, it's not because it failed, it's because you left the state. Return quietly and shut the door again. Matthew 6 verse 6 is not about religion. It's about creative law. Jesus tells us exactly how reality is shaped quietly, inwardly, and in secret. Neville simply took him at his word. Thank you for watching Neville on Bible. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share this episode. Leave a comment below, not to announce your prayer, but to reflect on the verse itself. I'm Evelyn. Until next time, go within, shut the door, and trust what is unseen.